This is Bia, Becoming in Action, a space to explore the lifelong journey of growth as leaders, as professionals, and as human beings. Through honest conversations and lived experience, we evolve with courage and intention. Here's your host, Sandy Abear.
Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. About a month ago, we had two couples over for dinner. It was one of those really nice summer nights, so the plan was to grill, eat inside, and then when it cooled off a little bit, we'd go sit on their outdoor furniture, have a fire, make s'mores. Nothing fancy, just hanging out with some good friends. Luke was also going to have a few buddies over. They were going to play cornhole. After I prepared the food, I went upstairs to get ready, and I put on this super cute short set that I had recently gotten. It's navy blue with white piping, and I was feeling pretty good about myself. But as I was walking downstairs, I looked out the windows of our family room that overlook our patio and looked at our outdoor furniture and realized something. I was matching the couch, like perfectly matching the couch. The exact same navy blue, the exact same white piping. And for a second I thought, oh my goodness, I have got to turn around and go change. And I almost did. The compulsion to not match my couch was strong. But I caught myself. And I thought, why? Why should I change my clothes just because I'm matching the couch? I felt super cute in front of the mirror 5 minutes ago. Who cares? It's kind of funny, actually. So I didn't change. And when we all went outside after dinner, I simply announced, okay, it's a who wore it better competition between me and my couch. Everyone started laughing. I plopped down on the couch. And of course, Gerard had to take a picture. And I felt silly, but a good silly. We were laughing. I was laughing. It was funny. Then my friend Nicole said, you should pose like George Costanza. If you're a Seinfeld fan, you probably know exactly what she meant. So of course, I did. I leaned over and struck a completely ridiculous George Costanza pose. And Gerard took another picture. Everyone laughed. I laughed. And then I looked at the picture and something changed. Almost instantly. I went from having fun to feeling embarrassed. I didn't like the way I looked. I thought I looked stupid. And suddenly my brain started asking questions that hadn't really occurred to me 30 seconds earlier. Why did I do that? Why did I strike that stupid pose? Why didn't I just change my clothes in the first place? I was embarrassed and I told Gerard, oh my gosh, you have to delete that picture. Well, if you know Gerard, of course, he didn't delete the picture. And I'm really glad he didn't. Because I've been thinking about that picture ever since. Not because of what I was wearing and not because I matched the couch, but because of how quickly I went from joy to judgment. I think there's something important in that. I've been asking myself, when did I get so serious? Because I've been thinking a lot about silliness lately, about play, about what it means to be willing to look ridiculous. I recently talked about watching Saturday Night Live and noticing how much I admire people who are willing to completely commit to being absurd. They'll wear something ridiculous. They'll make a ridiculous face. They'll use a ridiculous voice. They'll throw their entire body into a character. And I realized there was something about that freedom that I wanted. Not because suddenly I have aspirations of becoming a sketch comedian, but because I think I've spent a lot of my life being competent, responsible, capable, put together. I've been the person who knows what to do, who takes care of things, who reads the room, who wants to be taken seriously. And there are a lot of really good things about those qualities. But I'm beginning to wonder whether somewhere along the way, I accidentally created a rule for myself. You can be funny, but don't look foolish. Those are two different things. It's relatively safe to say something witty. It's much more vulnerable to be the joke, to make the face, do the dance, strike the pose, sing badly, laugh too loudly, wear the ridiculous thing. To allow yourself to be seen without controlling exactly how you're being seen. And maybe that's why silliness can feel surprisingly vulnerable. And of course, there's actual science behind this. Humans are incredibly social creatures. We are constantly scanning for information about how we're being perceived by other people. Do I belong here? Do people like me? Do they respect me? Am I behaving appropriately? For most of human history, belonging wasn't just emotionally important. It was essential for survival. If you were accepted by your group, you were turned out and unable to survive alone. So our brains became incredibly sensitive to social evaluation, which means something as insignificant as looking at an unflattering picture can trigger a much bigger reaction than the situation deserves. No one at my house was rejecting me. No one was thinking, wow, Sandy has really lost it. She's dressed like patio furniture, and now she's pretending to be George Costanza. They were laughing because it was funny. I was surrounded by people I loved. It was safe. But my brain had moved from experiencing the moment to evaluating myself in the moment. And there's another concept in social psychology that helps explain why these experiences can feel so big. It's called the spotlight effect. Researchers have found that we tend to dramatically overestimate how much other people notice our appearance, our mistakes, and our awkward moments. We feel like there's a giant spotlight shining on us. Meanwhile, everybody else is busy just thinking about themselves. And that evening, as I was lying in bed, I kept replaying the couch incident. Again with the questions. Why didn't I just change? Why did I pose like that? Why did I let George take the picture? And here's what's funny. Nobody else cared. That night had just kept going on. We sat around the fire, we talked, we laughed, we ate s'mores. Nobody convened an emergency meeting about Sandy's George Costanza impression. It existed in my head. The thing is, play requires us to give up some control. Play researcher Stuart Brown has spent decades studying the importance of play across the lifespan. And one of the things I find fascinating about play is it requires flexibility. Play says, let's see what happens. Let's pretend. Let's experiment. Let's do something simply because it's fun. There's no productivity metric, no achievement, no polished outcome. And that's exactly why play can be difficult for adults who have become very invested in competence, because competence is controlled. Play isn't. You might look ridiculous. You might not be good at it. Someone might laugh at you. If you're doing it right, they absolutely will laugh at you. I'm starting to wonder if one of the things I'm learning in this season of life is that I don't always need to protect myself from that. As children, we don't sit down and think, who do I want to be? How do I want to act? We discover ourselves through play, through experimentation. without a goal, through joy. And then something strange happened. A few weeks after, I was looking through Google Photos and I came across that picture. Except it wasn't exactly the picture. Somehow, it had been turned into a cartoon. I thought Gerard had done it. He says he didn't. Neither one of us really knows exactly how it happened. But there I was, Cartoon Sandy, matching the cartoon couch, doing my ridiculous George Costanza pose. And I looked at it and I laughed. It was funny. But something else happened too. I felt differently about myself. That little bit of distance between me and the actual photograph changed something. Instead of looking at the picture and thinking, gosh, I look stupid, I could look at the cartoon and think, that was really funny. Same woman, same outfit, same couch, same pose, same night, different lens. There's power in distance. There's research behind this. Psychologists Ethan Kross and others have studied something called self-distancing. It's that zooming out. When we're emotionally immersed in an experience, we're inside it. We feel the embarrassment. We hear the inner critic. We replay the moment. But when we're able to step back and observe ourselves with a little distance, something changes. We can become more curious, more objective, sometimes more compassionate. And apparently, in my case, I just needed to become a cartoon. But I think about how interesting that is. The event didn't change. My relationship to the event changed. And that feels incredibly connected to something I talk about all the time. The difference between observation and judgment. When I was sitting on that couch with my friends, I was experiencing the moment. I'm wearing the same color as the couch. Observation. This is hilarious. Observation. Everyone is laughing. Observation. I saw the picture and suddenly I look stupid. Judgment. I shouldn't have done that. Judgment. Why can't I just act normal? Judgment. Nothing happened between those moments except the story I started telling myself. And then the cartoon gave me enough distance to change the story again. Look how much fun we were having. That was pretty funny. I was being playful. I was surrounded by people I feel safe with. That's actually a really good memory. Same event, 3 completely different experiences of it. And that's got me thinking about embarrassment a little bit different. Because usually when we feel embarrassed, our instinct is to retreat. Don't do that again. Don't wear that again. Don't make that joke again. Don't put yourself out there like that again. Protect yourself. But what if sometimes embarrassment isn't telling us we did something wrong? What if sometimes it's simply telling us you stepped outside of the version of yourself you're accustomed to presenting? You loosened your control. You let yourself be seen. You did something without first making sure you'd look good doing it. Maybe embarrassment isn't always a stop sign. Sometimes maybe it's evidence that we're expanding. As you all know, I've been talking a lot about intentional reinvention, about asking, who am I now? What matters to me now? What do I want this next season of life to feel like? I'm realizing that maybe reinvention isn't only about the big things, career, purpose, relationships, goals. Maybe it's also about reclaiming little pieces of ourselves that we put away somewhere along the way. Curiosity, spontaneity, playfulness, silliness. Maybe becoming isn't always about adding something new. Sometimes it's about giving ourselves permission to recover something old. I don't know exactly when I learned that being taken seriously required me to take myself so seriously, but I'm starting to question that assumption. Because I want to be credible, of course. I want to be thoughtful. I want to be someone that people trust. I want to do meaningful work. And I also kind of want to match my couch sometimes. I want to strike the stupid pose. I want to laugh until my stomach hurts. I want to occasionally look ridiculous. Those things don't have to cancel each other out. Maybe that's part of becoming more whole. Another funny thing happened. When I started getting pictures around to create this episode, I looked at the cartoon and started thinking about other people looking at it. And it got me embarrassed and nervous all over again. It made me start to think, oh, should I maybe tweak this a little bit? That expression is kind of dumb. I have a wine glass in my hand. Is that okay? What will people think? Just all the thoughts. And you'll be glad to know I did not touch the cartoon. I have posted it as is. Going through that whole exercise of questioning and embarrassment again when thinking about sharing it has made me accept it at yet another level. Because when I'm looking at that picture now, I don't see a woman who looks stupid. I see a woman who's having fun. I see friendship. I see a summer night. I see Gerard behind the camera. And I see Nicole say, do the George Costanza pose. And I see people laughing. I see s'mores and a fire and people who love sitting around our backyard. And I see myself practicing something I'm apparently still learning how to do. Being free enough to be silly. And there's something kind of beautiful about that. The picture I wanted deleted now is the picture I want to keep. Not because I suddenly think I look fantastic doing my George Costanza impression, because I don't. And that's sort of the point. I want to keep it because it reminds me that not every photograph of my life needs to be flattering to represent a beautiful moment in my life. That's a sentence I think I needed. And maybe you do too. So here's something I'm going to pay attention to. The next time I feel that little flash of embarrassment after being playful, I'm going to try not to immediately shut it down. Instead, I want to ask myself, did I actually do something I regret? Or am I simply uncomfortable because I allowed myself to be seen without controlling the image? Those are very different things. And maybe you can notice it too. When was the last time you were genuinely silly? Not clever, not entertaining, not performing for other people. Just ridiculous. When was the last time you laughed at yourself without turning the laughter into criticism? When was the last time you did something simply because it delighted you? And maybe the bigger question is, what might become available to you if you weren't quite so worried about looking ridiculous? Because maybe freedom doesn't always look graceful. Maybe sometimes it looks like a 54-year-old woman wearing a cute short set that matches her outdoor furniture, doing a George Costanza pose while her husband takes a picture. And maybe that's the kind of picture worth keeping. And that's what I'm learning right alongside you. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep noticing what matters, keep trusting yourself, and keep creating a life that feels true to you.